Hey there, I'm Paige Griffith, your host and an attorney for small business owners. I help online businesses and creatives get legally legit in no time. This podcast is all about the legal and the Paige behind it. I'll break down and simplify legal talk while providing practical business guidance every step of the way. And after over a decade in the entrepreneur space and becoming a mother, I'll also be sprinkling in tips for running a business and giving you a glimpse behind the scenes of what life's really like. As a gentle reminder and disclaimer, I am an attorney, but I am not your attorney. So be sure to seek legal counsel for personalized advice. Welcome to the Legal Paige Podcast. Everyone, I am so excited to have Mr. Davey Jones on the podcast today. Davey, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I am really excited about this conversation. We're going to talk a lot about email marketing, email address collection, websites, marketing trends with all of this in 2024. And we're going to give a little bit of a sprinkle of legal stuff in there too, because I'm the legal page and I can't help it. And then at the end, we actually are going to talk about trademarking. And Davey and I kind of worked together to trademark a brand name for him. So Davey, before we get into all of that, introduce yourself to everyone. And before we press record, it was really interesting. I said, what do you do? How many businesses do you own? Because I'm always really interested in following your business journey of like where you started out, where you are now. You're such a serial entrepreneur. So give everyone the lowdown.
Yeah, I have a lot of different interests. So that leads to a lot of different businesses, inevitably. Right now, though, I'm solely focused on BDOW. All right. So I'm the CEO of BDOW. BDOW is an intelligent form and pop-up tool. It was formerly called Sumo. Some people might know it by Sumo, the name SumoMe. That's not to be confused with AppSumo or KingSumo or BuzzSumo, many of the other sumo businesses out there. But that product, Sumo or SumoMe, was acquired from the Sumo Group. And again, just to clarify, just that product. So AppSumo still runs, its own bit. The Sumo Group still runs AppSumo and some other sumo-related products. So we acquired that in late 2023, rebranded it to BDOW. And like I said, intelligent forms and pop-ups for your website. And that's really my sole focus. I still own a brand and website design agency with my wife, Krista. But, as people know, she's the designer. And so that's really her focus. I mean, we talk work all the time. So I'm still involved in that business, still know what's going on. But really my day-to-day focus is on BDOW. My background, though, is in agencies. So previous to this, and we worked together in this business as well. I can't remember how we met at this point, but through one of the businesses, right?
Like a decade in the making by that point.
Yeah. But I co-founded Till Agency, which is a digital advertising agency. And I think they still run your ads, right?
They do. Yeah. And it's going really well still.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. So co-founded that with two good friends of mine, and that was a digital advertising agency. Ran that for a number of years, but stepped away from that to focus on BDOW. Also had a farm business somewhere in there. Yeah, because I was out on a run with a friend, and he was like, "Hey, I'm going to get back into farming." And I was like, "Hey, that sounds great. Can I get in on that?" And that was, not a great decision. It was a lot of fun. And really enjoy running businesses with friends. He's continuing on with that business, but I'm no longer farming.
Okay, well, farmer, app, somewhat developer / strategizer, visionary / agency owner, website designer extraordinaire, CEO, maybe visionary there too. So fun to kind of hear the trajectory of your business and kind of where you're at now. I know also you're a father, and that's been really fun. Like you and I have kind of done a little bit of that business journey together. I think maybe our age range is very similar, and just like having young kids and like also being a parent and doing all of the things all at once. So we have a lot of similarities. You guys, I love Davey. I just think he's a wealth of information. So in that regard, Davey, I just want to talk a little bit about email marketing 101 of 2024 moving into 2025. What is kind of your take on what's working right now for email collection?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think email marketing has been sort of the tried and true channel for a long time now. Every once in a while, we'll see somebody say, "Oh, email's dead." Usually when you see a headline like that, they're trying to push something like ManyChat or, SMS. And both those channels are really good. Like the open rates and click rates in SMS and something like ManyChat are awesome. We implement them across, all the businesses that I'm a part of. So recommend those channels. But I think the one that, just has provided such consistent value for businesses for such a long time now and will continue to do so, at least in the foreseeable future here, is email marketing. I mean, I think it's just reliable. Conversion rates continue to be reliable. I think you can say things like, if you want to double your business, then double the size of your email list. I think those sorts of things hold true. And you can't really say that about other channels, right? Like, you can't say that about Instagram. If you want to double your business, double your Instagram following. Like, I don't think that follows. I do think, though, in 2024, going into 2025 here, that, we see some things change in terms of how you collect emails. I think it used to be that the simple advice would be like, hey, you want to collect emails, create a lead magnet. And sure, that's still to a certain extent the advice. But I think that with lead magnets now, you really your game has to be upped. If you can't sell your lead magnet for at least $50, $75, $99, then I don't think it's valuable enough. And so I think gone are the days where you can create like a simple checklist and say, oh, download this checklist. Like, what people want is something that provides, a quick win, like something actionable that people can implement today. And gone are the days of like, I think ebooks and content like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk about pop-up forms then a little bit, because there's, the email collection through ManyChat. You said, I think a lot of people know that right now, and that's still utilizing Instagram, but at least trying to get off of Instagram a little bit and get your followers onto your email list. So that's a form of email collection that a lot of people use in marketing that are service providers, that are primarily listeners to the Legal Paige podcast. I think there's also just pop-ups. And that can be a freebie that we were just talking about, or a lead magnet or an opt-in, all used interchangeably. Or it can be like, what is like the quickest way for people? I think service providers have a little bit more difficult time with this. I would love to hear your input here. But e-commerce strategy is truly like, do you want 10% off your next purchase? Do you want 20% off your next purchase? That's going to be the easiest pop-up all day long to get people the quick win that you just said. What can they utilize right then and there while they're on your website? So beyond that, so if people have digital products, they could use that tactic. But what other ways can you just strategically use email collection on your website and potentially through a pop-up?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of my favorite lead magnets to recommend are tools that people already use in their business that they know deliver value, either because they use those tools for their clients or they use those tools internally. And then all you have to do is take that tool and templatize it. So just as a couple examples here, one of Chris's most popular lead magnets is a mood board, this like mood board thing where it basically helps, or she uses it to create mood boards for her clients.
Like website design clients, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So she uses this for her website design clients. So when she delivers a mood board, this is the template that she uses to deliver that mood board. So basically, she makes that template available to really anybody who's interested. And from there provides like a short video on how she uses it. So this is something that she doesn't have to create from scratch. She knows that it provides value because she gets a lot of positive feedback from clients on it. And she knows it provides value in the way, like as a tool in her business. So real quick, I mean, in terms of making that lead magnet, less than an hour, and so you don't have to put a lot of effort into it, and it's something that's going to provide some sort of return. It also qualifies it qualifies her leads. And it does so on a number of levels. One, she markets to other designers. She has, designer courses that she sells. So this is a tool that would be interested for them, but it's also interesting to people who are thinking about doing a rebrand or thinking about doing a website design project. They can use this to start putting together their own thoughts. And as they go through that, we've had people go through that process, come to us and say, hey, I put this together. And it actually helps us because it gives us an idea of kind of the aesthetic that they're looking for. So it helps qualify design clients as well. And I think that's the best kind of lead magnet. It's actionable. It provides a quick win. It's easy for people to use, and it provides value. But and that's something that a service-based business could use as well. So I think lead magnets like that are one of the best ways to get people to opt in or get subscribers on your email list. From there, I mean, I think webinars still do really well.
Yeah.
I'd say that for a while there, it seemed like people were kind of down on webinars. I do think that people kind of know what's coming with a webinar these days. It used to be like, oh, free training, and there was like no expectation of a sale coming at the end. But now everybody knows at the end of this webinar, there's going to be some sort of sale. I think that's forced webinars to up level as well. Like,
Agree.
I think the business owner really has to provide value during the webinar and not just make it an extended 90-minute sales pitch. So, those are the sorts of lead magnets that we recommend.
Yeah, we're seeing that at the legal page too. We actually just hosted a few webinars. I've actually done different takes. So with our audience, we do a lot of just educational, straight up, no pitch webinars. And I think the marketing and strategizing behind pitching those types of things is very much just be super clear that they're just going to get a bunch of education on this. I'm not pitching anything, and more people sign up. So we've had thousands of signups through the just straight up educational webinars like that. We do that about every quarter. But I have seen definitely a trend with webinars that it's like the shorter you can be, like around 45 minutes, and the pitch is only like 5 minutes at the very end instead of this long drawn out, like you said. They feel like it's coming the whole time. They feel like they just got a ton of value from you and it's just true education for the first 30 to 40 minutes. Then it just goes better to build that goodwill with people. You've already collected their email address. So maybe the offer isn't perfect for them or they're not going to buy right there, then and there. But then you can warm up the email list on the back end and, the conversion just comes farther down the line. Okay, pop-ups. Let's go back to pop-ups for a little bit because I'm very intrigued by this from a service provider's perspective. What do you need that pop-up to look like? What page do you put it on? Does it have to be on the home page? Are you strategically putting it on pages where you know that that's a qualified lead, like they're getting to your investment page, they're looking at your service offerings, or say you're a photographer, your galleries, like that they're getting beyond the first 5-second scroll of your home page? Suggestions there for like where that pop-up comes into play. And then I also want to ask you, like, does the branding behind that pop-up matter? Like, why pop-ups versus like sign up for my email newsletter list at the bottom that nobody does?
Yeah, absolutely. So lots of different questions there. Feel free to ask follow-ups here too if I don't get to exactly what you're hoping I get to, or if there's anything I can clarify here. As far as what pages a pop-up should go on, I would choose your most high converting or most trafficked pages. And that's low-hanging fruit. So I'd go in Google Analytics, Google Search Console. I'd figure out what my most popular pages are, and I'd make sure I'd have a lead magnet on those pages. Ideally, the lead magnet will, or whatever's on that pop-up, will connect to the content that somebody is browsing on that page. So a lot of times this doesn't mean that you need to have multiple opt-ins. It's just how you position that opt-in. So again, for Krista's like mood board template, you might have different language on that pop-up that speaks more to designers if it's a blog post geared toward designers than if it's just a general, here's how you DIY your website, right? That might be more geared toward, any business owner who's looking to create a website. So ideally you can, utilize copy on your pop-up that is, aligned with whatever's on that page. So that's low-hanging fruit there. That's where I would start.
Cool.
From there, though, in terms of why a pop-up instead of like why an embedded form, in BDOW, you can choose from a number of different types of forms. So it can be pop-up, a scroll box, which is like a pop-up, but it scrolls, in typically the bottom right-hand corner of the page as you scroll the page. You can do something like a welcome mat. That's probably going to be the most in-your-face kind of pop-up where you land on a page and then all of a sudden there's a full page pop-up that's promoting whatever it is that you're promoting.
Oh, interesting.
There's a click trigger, which you click on a link and then it opens up a pop-up. And I know I'm missing, and then the embedded form as well. So that inline form that you were talking about. So really it's choosing the right form for the job. Pop-ups in general are nice because it's, you can't miss them, right? Like when something pops up on the screen, you have to deal with that pop-up. So you have to minimize it or you have to complete it, but there's no kind of scrolling past it. That's one of the reasons why people hate pop-ups. But again, going back to point one, that's why you want the pop-up to have, to be in line with whatever content they're reading on that page. So it feels like in that pop-up, you're getting value add instead of just like a pesky ask, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So Yeah. So that's one of the, I think that's one of the benefits of a pop-up. And that's typically why you're going to see higher conversion rates on a pop-up than you would like an inline form. Something, especially if the only inline form you have on your website is in your footer. And that's where we see a lot of email signups is in the footer. And it would just say, sign up for my newsletter, which typically isn't incentive enough for people to sign up, right? Because all that's associated with is extra mail. If you really do disdain pop-ups, something like a scroll box is nice because it just slides in from the bottom right-hand corner. So it's there as somebody scrolls, but it's not as in your face. But again, it's very noticeable, typically because of that animation that's involved. One of my favorite features of BDOW is our show a tab feature. And so basically the way this works is that you can create a pop-up that when somebody clicks the X, it minimizes into a bar in the bottom of your screen. You may have noticed this on some e-commerce websites. We utilize this function this feature on the Davey and Krista website. And it's kind of a win-win. For somebody who's browsing your site, maybe for the first time, they're not ready to commit, even if it's like a 15 or 20% off offer, right? But as they scroll your site, if they do decide they want to buy, what are they doing? They're probably leaving the site and trying to come back and trying to get that pop-up to appear again,
Yeah.
And what you can do is create that minimizable pop-up so that when somebody is ready to use it again, they just click that bar, it pops back up, and they can complete the action that you want them to take. So lots of different strategies involved with actually getting somebody on your list. Some other things, typically the more form fields you include on your pop-up, the less likely it is that somebody's going to complete the form. So you want to keep it sort of short and sweet. That's why a lot of times you're going to typically see a name field and an email field or just an email field. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really just want to collect the information that you need. With BDOW, you can get pretty advanced in your targeting, So again, going back to that 20% off offer, let's say you only want to show that to new visitors. You could set that up in BDOW so that only shows to new visitors in your site. You can show pop-ups based on the number of pages that somebody has visited. Or again, if you have multiple opt-ins and maybe they correspond with different categories of stuff you blog about, you can target those category pages with certain pop-ups so that, again, people are seeing, content upgrades. They're seeing opt-ins that are relevant to the content that they're already consuming on your website.
All just gold. I really want to try out the minimizer because that makes a lot of sense. Legally speaking, you have to be able to have an X box. We've all seen it with a pop-up that comes up on your website right when you land on it. They want to try to get your email address right away, but we've all seen the X at the top too. So for consumer protection purposes, you have to be able to opt out of that opt-in to be able to just continue on with the user experience on the website. But I like the idea of it just minimizing at the bottom because I was literally just on a website a few days ago and the 10% off went away and I was super annoyed because then I actually wanted the product once I got to the product page and did my research. And then you go to the coupon sites to get all the coupons. Anyway, I'm just telling people smart consumer practices here. But that's a really good way to just kind of ease the burden of somebody to just get their email, of course, for your email list, but also to give them the offer that they actually wanted. Is there any, I also like the idea of testing it. I have a question surrounding this though. You're okay, there's all these various ways of doing it. Say someone is new to the opt-in game, this lead magnet game, this pop-up game. They're just trying to start their business and they've heard email list building is really important. Say you have 3 different freebies or ways to collect email addresses on your website. Would you suggest, and maybe BDOW does this and you can let me know, but I'm just curious, would you suggest that you can play around with those 3? Do you run them for a month at a time? Can you run them for every third person that comes to your website gets this and then you test it and then you figure out, okay, I've got stats and metrics here on which one is going to work, and then you run that for 6 months? Have you had any experience surrounding that, or what people are doing if they have multiple ways of collecting emails?
Yeah. So really good question. I think that one of the things, or I think testing can overcomplicate things, especially if you're first getting started. So I'll start by saying BDOW has easy to use A/B testing features. So you can create different variations of a pop-up. You can set how often you want those variations to appear, and then you can compare the results of the test down the line. So that's one way to do it. You want to make sure that you're getting enough traffic for those test results to have any sort of significance, right?
Yeah.
So again, if you're just getting started, especially if you don't feel like you have a really high traffic website, I would recommend just getting started with one of those opt-ins, testing it for a bit, then swapping it out and see how things go. If you have a little bit of a budget, one of my favorite things to do is to test things across Facebook and Instagram ads. So you'll see that authors do this a lot, especially if they're launching a book. What they'll do, it's called click testing. And so they'll run maybe different versions of the cover of the book, and basically that's how they'll choose the cover of the book. One version will be yellow, another version will be red, one version will have one illustration. And that's a really easy way just to see what people are clicking on. And typically what they'll go with is, whatever ad had the best click-through rate, and maybe they're using other metrics to actually determine the test. But so that's another way to go about it is you can do a really low budget test, especially since it doesn't cost a lot of money to get in front of thousands of people on Facebook or Instagram ads. So you could probably, in $200 kind of figure out which one of your lead magnets is the one that you want to stick with. I actually love doing this with just a single lead magnet. What I found in the past, we've had lead magnets that we've launched, didn't do well. And then we've been pretty disappointed because we're like, hey, we know this is awesome, but, people don't seem to be opting in for it for whatever reason. So we'll run tests where we just change the headlines associated with that lead magnet or the title of the lead magnet. And oftentimes that will make the difference. And again, one of the easiest ways to test at scale quickly is using something like Facebook and Instagram ads to run that test. But yeah, kind of circling back to your original question here, especially if somebody's just getting started, I would just, you have 3 different options. I would choose one, test it out for a certain amount of time. Maybe that's a certain amount of traffic that you want to run through it. Then take that one down and then try another and kind of see, which one performs best.
Okay, I love that idea. I had an idea here too, because now you've got my marketing brain going, which if anyone has listened to me beyond just legal information and protection and guidance, I love strategizing on how to get your business to be more successful, and email collection is a part of that. For people that sometimes are like, where do I go? Maybe I don't have a big Instagram following. I'm just starting out. I don't know why I'm so caught up on people who are just starting out, but I think it's a big part of the industry that when you don't know a lot about lead magnets and you don't know a lot about pop-up forms, where do you go? Say you don't have Facebook ads, say you don't have a huge Instagram following. If you're trying to figure out what would my ideal audience or client want when they're landing on my website in a pop-up, one thought I had is instead of, people say, go test out with your Instagram audience, what they may want and use that as the pop-up. And you're like, I don't even have an Instagram audience or my engagement's super low. Just ask people in your hometown and your family and friends that know nothing about your business or the marketing behind it. What would be of interest to you beyond just my services? What else are you looking for? What's a pain point? And then kind of find a common theme. And then like Davey said, I am all in on the one thing. And I think people move around and throw spaghetti at the wall too much. And they're like, okay, I'm going to create 3 opt-ins, and then I'm going to test all those out. And the reason I asked this question was I was hoping you and I were going to be in alignment here with just choose the one and slightly tweak the messaging around it, because I guarantee it's probably not the offer, it's the messaging to begin with, if you truly think it is the right offer. And it's going to take, I always say, 6 to 12 months to even realize if it's the offer to begin with, which is the pop-up offer that we're saying here, or whatever lead magnet type that you're running that Davey was talking about. So I just wanted to put in my 2 cents there on how I think you could go about figuring out what that cool offer is that you're giving them in other ways as well. Let's move to BDOW as a whole. Acquiring a business like that, first of all, why BDOW? Why do you think that it's different than other applications out there, or maybe, of course, the email marketing platform that you are using that has an embedded form option? People just want the easiest route. Why is it a game changer for businesses looking to enhance their email marketing strategies?
Yeah, we're definitely a tool for people who want to be serious about marketing, for sure. So one of the things that separates us from an email marketing platform is that we're more focused on that mechanism of actually getting people onto your list, people actually opting in. And so we provide, advanced tools, especially in the way of targeting, to help make that happen. Because again, a lot of being successful, I think, with a pop-up or any sort of opt-in is getting the right message or right offer in front of the right person. And especially if we're running a business where maybe we market to a few different kinds of people, or maybe we have a few different kinds of services or sell a few different kinds of products, we want to make sure that we are targeting the right page with the right offer. And so that offer hopefully connects to whatever that visitor is interested in. And so oftentimes email marketing platforms, yeah, sure, you can embed their forms or you can use their pop-ups, but their targeting rules are not going to allow you to be as granular as the display rules that we offer in BDOW. One of the things that we're really focused on, and keep in mind that we're less than a year in to having acquired this product, but one of the things that we're really focused on is becoming the best website experience tool. And I think that's what you're seeing, especially with the rise of AI. But you're able to now provide more of an experience on your website than you ever were before. And so what that means is basically getting more personalized. Like you're able to, with a tool like BDOW, collect more information from your visitors and then use that information, whether you're sending it to your email marketing platform and you're using that information in your email marketing platform, like in your follow-up, or whether it's, showing a pop-up to somebody who has returned to your website, and being able to say like, hey, for somebody who's brand new to your website, maybe being like, hey, it looks like you're new around here. Here's where you should start. And maybe giving people a couple options of pages or posts that they should check out if they are indeed new to your website. So those are the sorts of things that are important to us and that we're going to continue focusing on, as we continue to evolve BDOW.
How does it integrate with websites like Showit and Squarespace and WordPress? I'm only familiar with a little bit of like back-end website development, and I'm always looking for like that embed tool. That's the base of my knowledge for embed forms and like getting pop-ups. But I think yours is a little different, right? Like you can control it from the BDOW website and it's a little bit simpler to integrate. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And it depends a little bit on what website tool you're using. But once you set up a BDOW account, one of the first things you're going to see is an install code. And as long as you can embed that code somewhere on your website, you can probably integrate with our tool. So we work on most major website platforms out there. With Showit, because Showit's a sister company, we have a really easy installation method. So again, if you're familiar with Showit, you would go to your site tools where you put your Google Analytics code. Right below that, there's a place where you can paste your BDOW code, and then all of a sudden you're installed on a Showit website. But then where you control how pop-ups display is actually going to be in BDOW. And so we not only integrate with most website platforms out there, but we integrate with some of the most popular email marketing platforms as well. So we integrate with Flowdesk and ConvertKit and ActiveCampaign. I'm sorry, not ConvertKit anymore. They're Kit now. So Kit, ActiveCampaign, Flowdesk. It's going to take me a while to get used to that.
Same.
Yeah. So, and one of the great things about that is you can take the leads that you're collecting via BDOW, and then you can send them to whatever tools that you want to send them to. So if there's multiple integrations you want to set up, it's really easy to do that with a tool like BDOW. And then of course, we collect your contacts in BDOW as well. We have some email functionality too. And so if you want to do things like content upgrades, you can set those up right in BDOW. You could fire off an email with that freebie, and you could set all of that up with BDOW.
Love it. Give me like 3 to 5 examples of some really cool businesses that are using BDOW right now that you could use as a case study on like why their email collection is successful. This is like, I'm putting you on the spot here. But if they're using BDOW, like 3 different types of businesses and how email collection is going really well for them using your guys' platform.
Yeah. And so, one of the things that I want to mention too is that we do more than just email collection as well. I think one of the most popular use cases for BDOW is providing in-website messaging that can redirect people to, maybe a sale that's going on or something you have going on or on a different page or post.
Like announcement bars?
Yeah, like announcement bars, like we do sticky bars, that can announce a sale and then bring you to, whatever product page or category page or the shop page where that sale is actually happening. One of my favorite examples of something like this actually has to do with webinars. And so we've actually utilized this little strategy as well, but we have a company, they're brand photographers that they sell brand photography education. They sell that. Their main sales vehicle is through webinars. And basically what they do is they use ads to drive traffic to a webinar registration page. What they notice, as with any ads, people go to that page. Some people sign up, some people don't. So what they've set up on that page is an exit intent offer. And so what that means is as the cursor starts scrolling to the X to leave that page, a pop-up appears. And in this case, it's a bonus for registering for the webinar. So this is something that to a certain extent is separate from the webinar, but they're telling you you're going to get if you just registered for this webinar. And what they've been able to do is add hundreds of extra people to this webinar. And they've used this strategy now for a number of different launches. And as you know, even adding dozens of extra people to a webinar could result in thousands of extra dollars. And so this is a way to get people to register who maybe were on the fence for registering. So Krista's actually utilized this for her launch. We have another friend, she's an integrator. And so not only does she do her own launches, but she manages launches for a number of other businesses as well. They started incorporating this strategy and seen a lot of success with it too. And so you're not really collecting email with the BDOW pop-up, but what you're doing is when people click that button, it redirects them back to the webinar registration form so that they can actually sign up. Yeah. So that's one example. We have another example. It's a e-commerce business. They're selling digital products. One of the things that they have is a popular quiz. I believe the quiz is made through Interact. So that's just another product out there. And they do a great job. So if people are looking to make their own online quiz, I'd highly recommend checking out Interact. But one of the cool things you can do with BDOW is you can take your Interact quiz, you can embed it into a BDOW pop-up. And what that allows you to do is then target the pages you want. You can use our display rules, combine them with your Interact quiz, and you can get them in front of, you can get that quiz in front of more people or again, the right people instead of using whatever Interact's tools are, or, oftentimes what people are doing is they're sending people to a landing page that has the Interact quiz on it. So they're taking people off of maybe the page that they want them on to take this quiz just to hope they go back to that page. And so this allows you to basically take the whole quiz in the pop-up instead of moving a visitor elsewhere. All right,
yeah, the less clicks, the better always, right? To get people to actually do what you want them to do with the button of choice that you have. Smart.
Absolutely. Show It website template designer. One of the things that she's done, which is pretty cool, is she's basically created a bump offer using a pop-up that's targeting her cart page. So the flow typically looks like this. Someone adds a website template to their cart. They go to the cart page to check out or the checkout page. She has a pop-up that's set to display on that checkout page that says, hey, you should also check out our matching Canva social graphics. And what she's done with that button is she's added the link so that basically like in WooCommerce, I should do a tutorial on this.
You should. I'm like, I want a tutorial on all of this. Also, can you just strategize for all of us? Like, what are the 3 things we should do for email?
We're going to be hanging out.
That would be a good offer for BDOW. I'm telling you. If people are like, but I don't have a marketing manager, Davey, please be my marketing manager.
Well, we're hanging out in 2 weeks, so we can strategize all you want. And you're one of my favorite people to talk business with as well. So that would be fun for me. But basically, when people click the button, it automatically adds that product to the cart. And so that's just like a in-cart bump offer that people can add.
Yeah, so I had a question. I was like, do you then take them out of the cart and back in? Because you don't ever want them out of the cart. You just want it to be a bump offer. So, and you can do that through BDOW, or is it like connecting that pop-up with like a trigger in your e-commerce platform?
Yeah, with WooCommerce, there's like a link you can grab for a product, but basically it's like the add to cart link for that product.
Oh,
and
cool.
so when they click the button, it automatically adds it to the cart. So again, you don't have to take them out of the cart.
Wonder if I have that. If they don't, they should.
I'm sure they do. And one of the things that I'll mention about bump offers is like sometimes with a bump offer, you always run the risk of somebody going back out of the cart to check out more about that product, you know?
Always.
So sometimes, yeah, bump offers work against it. That's why I really like upsells, but bump offers work. So, and so I think that's one of the cool use cases as well. So those are the ones that come to mind.
No, I really like that. Good job. I put you on the spot, and that was solid, just rapid fire answers there. And it gave everyone a good idea of like various ways you can go about it with the business that you're offering. I think a lot of people do email collection in like if they're selling digital products or they have some education as a part of their business as well. And service-based providers also like give me like one really good example of service-based providers that may not have any of the things that we were just talking about as their offers. They don't have back-end education, digital products, anything like that. What are you seeing as kind of the most popular pop-up or like email collection tool on their websites? Is it a freebie? Is it something else? Is it like the embedded? I love the embedded lines, like maybe in a blog, because you have potential clients looking at your blogs and your galleries and your videos and your HMUA services. Like I'm kind of interested to pick your brain there if I was a service provider.
Yeah, I think if you're a service provider, again, looking at those ways that you can provide a quick win to people, I mean, it's really about coming up with some way that you can start solving a specific problem for somebody, give them a quick win in the short term, and all of that kind of thing is going to build trust. One service provider that I'm thinking of right now, she's an SEO specialist, and one of the things that she offers is free SEO audits. And this is really, SEO audits are something that's really easy to run. It gives her an opportunity to connect with somebody. So she has an opt-in. People request a free SEO audit. So I'm sure she gets a notification when somebody requests that. She runs the free SEO audit. Then I'm sure there is some sort of conversation, maybe she sends a calendar link or something like that to follow up. But one of those things, something like that is a great offer. I mean, especially for an SEO specialist, because you can make somebody problem aware. You can say, hey, I ran this audit. Here are the issues I'm seeing. But then you can also lay out exactly what you're going to do to help that person solve, their specific SEO issues. And so, stuff like that, I think really does well for service-based businesses. Again, going back to Chris's example, anything that you can take that you use in your own business that would be relevant to your customers and you can templatize that to deliver them a quick win, highly recommend creating one of those. I think what you were talking about earlier about keeping things simple, especially if you're just getting started, I think that's one of the most important things you can do. I think oftentimes we overcomplicate things, especially when it comes to lead magnets. I think we also think that more is better, and that's almost never the case. Yeah. I think some of the best lead magnets that I can think of are things that are really easy to consume, so think about format too. When you think about your ideal customer profile, what sorts of formats do they want to consume and have time to consume? I used to think like, oh, if I make an ebook, it has to be 100 pages. And it's like, no one has time for a 100-page ebook. Nobody wants to go through a 100-page ebook. They want practical, actionable, whatever it is now that they can implement and get a quick win. So those are the sorts of things that I would be thinking about. I mean, we even see people, actually hair and makeup was one of the examples that you mentioned. She has like a pricing sheet that she just puts behind a download, like an opt-in form. And, it's sort of a step in between actually wanting to talk to that person, right? So oftentimes we hide that behind our contact form. But this way, people can opt in to see her pricing. She still gets their contact information, but those people aren't making as much of a commitment as, inquiring now. So there's all sorts of things that you can do.
Yeah, I want to add on here because you were like your idea about the HMUA professional that was like trying to get information and like hiding their pricing behind it. I could go a step further here, and maybe you don't want to do this, but I think you could do it in a very strategic way that wouldn't devalue your actual pricing. But if I was somebody who was like trying to book a service provider like a makeup artist for my wedding and event. My biggest question is like, how can I save money on makeup artistry services? And if that was an opt-in and I was a potential client, I would actually be really interested in that. Like, you're the professional, you have the expertise. Here are things you may not need, but here are the absolutes that like all of my clients say that they will never regret. And then you also have then you pitch kind of your services as a whole, but you're solving a pain point for them, which is like going around and, price shopping, but also just hitting home what they actually really want to know. And then you could strategically place your services like, this is why I have this package. You don't need anything else. You just need this. Stop looking around for the 5 different things that you need and everyone's telling you. You really only need this. Anyway, marketing there as well. Okay, with a pop, let's go back to a pop-up. Legally speaking, you have to have like a privacy policy attached to that pop-up. So I'm guessing on BDOW, you have a way for them to link, like when by subscribing, you agree to receive email marketing from the Legal Page LLC, correct? And you have like, you agree is either underlined and that links to your privacy policy, or you could say like, getting marketing email campaigns from the Legal Page LLC and its privacy policies here. And then you underline that part. You guys have that ability, right? In BDOW?
Yeah. And we also have like GDPR opt-in boxes,
cool.
Things like that. So yeah, we should have all the tools that you need to make sure you stay compliant.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to throw that in here because it's one of the biggest things and issues I see is when people are utilizing all of these tools, they're just like, I'm going to not have any of that on my pop-up because it's annoying. And I think it's annoying when I go to certain websites, but the legalities of it are if you are targeting anyone in California, in Europe, you have to comply with the CCPA and the GDPR. You don't really need to know these acronyms other than they're huge privacy protection laws for consumers. And the government is now imposing a lot of laws surrounding, okay, if I am giving you my personal information, why are you using it? What are you using it for? And how can I get that information back if I don't want you to have it anymore? So it applies to email marketing and gathering, because an email address is someone's personal information. And especially if you're acquiring their names too. Definitely if you're also doing SMS attached to the email marketing campaign. And certainly you have to have privacy policies if you're doing any type of checkout and you're gathering people's like credit card information, so on and so forth. Let me just quickly, before we move on, because I do want to talk about trademarking, I just want to give you all like a little bit more information on what privacy policies do and where to have them on your website. So Davey, the reason I asked you that was you always want to link it in a pop-up form. It doesn't have to be like ultra conspicuous, meaning it needs to be bold and underlined and like right there for everyone to see before they even put in their name and email. We're all very accustomed in consumer online world where it has just your email address and then there's the little link at the bottom. Maybe it's in a little bit lighter font, right? But you want the ability for people to be able to click on it if they needed to. And you want to put those privacy policies on a separate page on your website and then link them in the bottom footer. So anywhere that you have like the contact me, the nav bar and the bottom footer, we're all very used to like finding refunds and exchanges, terms of service, privacy policies. That privacy policy for acquiring their personal information just needs to be easily linked in the bottom footer. So if they click off that pop-up, they could still be able to see what your policies are surrounding that. And then it's really just a plug and play. You can certainly get privacy policies and website terms and conditions from virtual lawyers. A lot of you have them from the legalpage.com contract template shop. But you just want to put the legalities and the legal information on that page. You should never draft those yourself. They're very, very legal jargon heavy for various reasons, like complying with all of these international and state laws here in the United States. As attorneys, we're going to see a trickle-down effect. We've been watching it for many years now. Of California is always the one that has like the highest intense privacy protection laws, and that's why some businesses like leave California. Yeah. But a lot of us have potential clients in California, and if you're targeting anyone in the United States, you have to comply with the CCPA. But that's going to trickle down. So what I mean by that is other states are always looking to California as kind of the leader of this type of consumer protection, privacy policy lawmaking. And then it starts getting lobbied, and lawmakers in other states follow suit, meaning that other laws in other states are certainly coming. And I know some that are, going through state Congress right now. So be aware of that. That is the one legal document that you have to have when you are doing email collection on your website. But it's super simple. I promise you guys, I'll link it in the episode description for you so that if you're like, yes, I need to use BDOW. Yes, I need more emails for my email list. Just make sure that you also have that. That's my legal page plug for you. Davey, do you have any suggestions surrounding that or any additional thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would just say that, like you said, it is very important to pay attention to. I mean, once we acquired BDOW, one of the first things we did was revisit our privacy policy. And now we're working with you to basically as an internal audit for GDPR. So Sumo, that product was marketed as a GDPR compliant product. Mm-hmm. But, it's an important enough thing that we thought, okay, we need to internally audit and make sure that that is indeed the case. And so that's why we've started working with you to make sure that that's not only the case internally, but then also that there's documentation for our users so that they're educated in the ways or in order to stay compliant, right? Because, as with pretty much any tool, a website tool out there or whatnot, you can set it up in a way that makes you not compliant. So we want to make sure that our users have the resources available to them to stay compliant.
Love it. Yeah. Super, super simple way to do this is what we just talked about. But I'm sure Davey will also be able to offer you guys tons of additional education as they grow BDOW. Him and I are working on that right now just to make sure that the users know the best practice ways to maneuver around it, but still have your privacy policy there at the bottom. If you are massively targeting people internationally and in Europe, how the GDPR applies. So General Data Protection Regulation, that is a law over in Europe that came about quite a few years ago. And it's becoming more and more of a thing where you could get fined and penalized and your business could be at risk if you're not collecting people's personal information the right way. Europe is a lot more stringent surrounding that than the United States, but I think, it's going to all follow around no matter where your business is located. Mm-hmm. Speaking of legal stuff, besides just privacy protections and privacy policies, privacy protection, and website terms and conditions, let's talk about trademarking and brand protection, because that's a huge thing that I do with my sister business, which is Griffith Suazo Law. And that's where we work one-on-one with clientele only for trademark registration or copyright registration or trademark and copyright infringement matters that may come up with a lot of the people that we already serve over at the legal page with contracts. Why do you think trademarking your business name is so important? I know we did it for BDOW, and what was the initial, I gotta talk to a lawyer about this. This is super important for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think early on in Sumo, there was a lot of, I think, due diligence in trying to figure out, okay, so there were a number of different names that we added to our list, that were potential, right? And, each of them being eliminated for various reasons. But once we chose a name, we wanted to make sure that we had a little bit of a moat around that name. I think even if you go back to Sumo, there are so many Sumo-related names out there now. And not only are they related by name, but they're also kind of similar, And so we don't want something like that to happen with BDOW. Fortunately, and that's one of the reasons you go with BDOW, right? It's so it is out different.
There. Who would have that name?
Yeah. That's right. There's probably not a lot of people thinking oh, I'm going to come up with some variation of BDOW. So for us, it was just making sure that we had that protection. So down the line, if someone was to start a tool and we felt it's pretty similar, not only what it sounds like, but maybe what it does, that we had, we had a legal foundation to fall back on.
From a client's perspective, did you feel like the initial trademark search process from Griffith Suazo Law was really straightforward? Did you like the clearance letter? How did that make you feel as a client kind of before you even started the application process?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things, you've been my go-to legal resource for years, both for across a number of different businesses. And one of the reasons that I love working with you is because obviously there's things that we need to do on our side, in terms of providing information so that you can do the research you need to do, but it just feels so easy for us, So I know like you all are taking care of those things. You are very clear in terms of laying out what your process is going to be, and I think you build a lot of trust that way. And, it helps, me understand, okay, what that process looks like. And then I think you're very thorough in the research that you do and conveying what you find, also conveying any concerns you might have. I remember in the trademark process for us, there were a number of different considerations. One was, was this something, because we weren't using it yet, was this something that we were going to be using in the future versus now? And talking about, maybe the considerations there. Also across different classes, if I'm putting that right. Is that the right term?
Yeah, international classes. So various goods and services that you may utilize now for that brand name versus in the future is what Davey is talking about here.
Yeah, and that's the nightmare of using something like LegalZoom or some other tool where I'm doing it, is because like you're able to talk about really the nuances between those classes and what we should be paying for versus what we shouldn't be paying for. So yeah, the process has been amazing. And same thing with the GDPR stuff right now. That process has been super smooth, and just to really appreciate the way you communicate, throughout the process as well.
Well, thank you. Yeah, one of my favorite parts about trademarking as a whole is just educating people on trademarking. I think they know that they need it, whether that's for their brand name that they've worked really hard to narrow down and figure out if that was the brand name. Especially if you're a company that kind of sees an exit strategy or sees like, a 5 to 10 year plan, even if it's not an exit, well, we're all going to exit our businesses in some way. You should always be thinking about an exit strategy, whether that's the business dying out or the business selling. Like there's one way or the other here. And when you work really, really hard on your brand name, everyone always thinks about, we got to get the logo, we got to get the colors and the brand strategy. All that's really important. You got to get the website, you got to get the Instagram account. But what happens if even your best research didn't show that someone else was sort of using even like a variation of that brand name, and then you get a letter for trademark infringement, and then you have to like go back to square one? That's what I don't want to have happen, where we're then defending you or telling you and, giving you legal advice surrounding, okay, here are next steps. This is what I would suggest, or let's fight it. And this is going to be an uphill battle, versus, okay, I've got my brand name. That's where Davey was at. And then we looked at, okay, he contacted us. I kind of took him through the process of what it looks like working with Griffith Suazo Law. But one of the things that myself and my law partner do is this research portion of it, and then we give you what's called a trademark clearance letter. And I'm a straight shooter, and Davey knows this, and anyone who works with me knows this. I'm never going to be like, spend money on this, pay me for my services, even if it's not going to work out and you have like a 15% chance. In the trademark clearance letter, we always say, here's some potential issues that are going to pop up. Here's other trademarks out there that, might implicate your ability to actually register this. We work with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, examining attorneys. So here's maybe some things that would come up, but that's maybe why Davey and I were looking at a different international class. If I'm like, okay, this one probably isn't going to go well, let's just try for this one and spend the filing fee here. And then I always let my clients make their best decision moving forward. Do they want to go through the application process? Do they just want to sit on that clearance letter for a while? So it would really behoove people if you're come up with a really good brand name like BDOW. And that's why I wanted to talk to Davey about this, is because it was one of the most unique business names that has come to our law firm that I kind of knew at the get-go. I was like, this is going to be pretty good. I'm not super worried about this, but service-based providers come with their surname as a part of their brand name, and they're just interested in what legal implications they could have there, or maybe there's a competitor that's in another state and they're kind of looking at that. We can help you with all of that. And then the application process as a whole is just, I always think, a behemoth. Like, people can do it. There's tutorials online on how to trademark your brand name or your logo. And Davey, you had kind of mentioned that too. Like, should we do the word text if we change the logo later down the road? Should we do the logo as well? Should you do both? Are we using it in commerce right now? Are we using it in the future? Like the minute you come up with a brand name, you need to talk to a trademark attorney. But yeah, thank you for letting us know from your perspective what it was like working with us and allowing me to kind of give my 2 cents on why I think it's important to just talk with an attorney from the get-go surrounding trademark protection.
Yeah, of course. And rebranding is a huge effort. And it doesn't matter like whether you're, I mean, however much work you think is involved with the rebrand, it's always more, and this is coming from somebody, again, who has a background in brand and website design agencies. And, people think, oh, I'm just going to make it this little project. And it never is. So you never want to have to go through that process a second time because of some sort of trademark issue. And, one of the biggest concerns in going through a rebrand is like, one of the value in acquiring a company is that company has some name recognition, right? And so people have known Sumo and Sumo Me for probably a decade plus. And so to change the name, like you want to make sure that you're drawing the connection between the old and the new. So had we had to do this again, because of some trademark issue, that would just be super confusing. It'd be such a nightmare to have to do that again. So, you definitely want to do your due diligence up front.
Yeah. And one last thing that I'll say here is he was kind of touching on the goodwill and the kind of, it's an intangible asset that you're going to have, right? So a trademark, the reason that you can actually own that federally throughout the United States, you can also do state trademarks as well, but most of us are utilizing, multi-state, multi-jurisdictional commerce here. So throughout the United States, and going with a federal trademark is the best route. But the minute that you register that, you put the application through, then it's kind of like first to file situation here in the United States. And then when you own it and you continually have goodwill associated with your goods and services in connection with that brand name, and you own the trademark, that continues to increase in monetary value, that intangible asset for your business, if you were to ever have an exit strategy down the road. So what I'm trying to say here, let me put it in like layperson terms, is the BDOW mark, if it continues to acquire goodwill, which it will, Davey's like continually using it, the brand will continue to use it. It will be registered here, hopefully very, very shortly. The application's already in, but it takes a while for the USPTO to get to these types of things. But first to file in the application's important. The minute that is registered, the years and years and years of goodwill attached to that, where people are associating that brand name with X goods and services. So pop-up forms and email marketing or email collection and marketing efforts. If we were to ever sell down the road, it's going to be more valuable because he owns the trademark and the trademark has 10 years on it versus no trademark and someone's trying to acquire it and they're like, but cool, you have a bunch of common law rights to this brand name, but it doesn't mean anything to us because there could be a competitor out there now. So something to just be aware of. I always tell people, they're like, okay, yeah, it's important for like now and trademark infringement, but it's also important to build upon the monetary value of that intangible asset in your business. And a lot of big businesses know this and corporate knows this, but like other people don't know this. And I always want to educate them on that. I feel like it's just one thing that kind of goes unheard in the small business world. So awesome. I love talking about that. Thank you. And it's been really fun to work with you in various respects throughout the year. So we've even done like custom contracts for certain things with Krista, which has been interesting. Looking ahead, Davey, just to kind of wrap it all up here, what developments do you see coming in 2025 and beyond for email marketing, website design, anything along those lines?
Yeah, I think an increase in personalization and more of an emphasis on kind of the experience that you can provide visitors to your website. I think that we're in an awesome position where you can collect more data than ever using various tools, and then being able to personalize the experience that you provide people with that data, I think really sets your brand apart from, experiences they might be having with, other e-commerce providers. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I think also, a business like yours becomes more important than ever because, you can collect more data than ever, and there are an increasing amount of laws and regulations around that. But again, I think that one of the evolutions that you're going to see just across websites in general is personalization and a better experience that's more tailored towards each visitor.
Yeah, UX is everything. That's user experience, you guys. And I mean, everyone in the marketing world is consistently talking about that, whether that's just, Davey and I over dinner, or whether that's in like massive masterminds with huge thought leaders, or, Gary Vee and all of his buds talking about that too. I mean, everyone's talking about user experience. So, remember that for email collection and pop-ups and various ways to continue to get people to your email list that you own. And it's a really good marketing strategy. It's our biggest marketing strategy is email marketing. So if that means anything, Davey, where can people find you? Where can they find out more about BDOW? Let our news users know where they can get more education here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you head over to BDOW.com, that's BDOW.com, you can learn more about BDOW and that app, how it might be able to enhance the experience that you provide your users on your website. We have a free account. So if you want to sign up and just take a look at how it works, you can sign up for a free account. We'll also make sure that you have a code. I don't know. Did we already set you up with a code?
Yeah, it'll be in the episode description for everybody.
Yeah, so check out the show notes and you can use a code if you want to sign up for one of our pro plans. If you want to follow along on social, all our social accounts are at BDOW, BDOW leads, LEADS. And then if you want to follow along with me personally, my Instagram handle is at Davey T. Jonesy. I also have a website launching soon where I'll be talking all about email marketing and lead generation in particular. And that's DaveyTJones.com. So check that out as well.
Amazing. We will make sure that you guys get easy access to everything that Davey just said. Davey, thanks for joining us. That was a really fun conversation about various things, but I'm excited to see where BDOW goes. I'm excited about all of these integrations. One thing I'll tell people too is I went to YouTube and there's some really good tutorials from his wife on how easy of an integration it is with Show It, how to go about it, various things that she does with BDOW leads as well. So I'll make sure to link a couple of those that I found really helpful and maybe helpful to a lot of you who are Show It users too.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. Really looking forward to seeing you at Spark Conference in 2 weeks. I think we're both speaking, so it'll be fun to connect there.
Yeah, it'll be fun. See you then. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
I have some exciting news, my friends. So the legalpage.com is your one-stop shop for all things contract templates and free legal information related to your small business. But say you need to work with an attorney one-on-one or have specific questions related to your business or trademark infringement or copyright infringement, or contract matters that have occurred with a client. You can now work with me and my legal partners at Griffith Swazo Law. We have now officially launched this law firm to help you and your business even more with everything that you may need on the legal backend side of things. So you can contact us today at griffithswazolaw.com. I will also link it in the episode description for you. And if you mention this ad, I will give you a little extra something from us. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's show. Be sure to visit thelegalpage.com for contract templates, blogs, YouTube videos, and additional legal resources. If you haven't already, head over to iTunes and leave me a review and rating. It truly means so much to me to hear your feedback and inspires me to continue creating podcast content. Also, I want to personally invite you to my free Facebook group at tlpfacebook.com, where you will get access to me, my legal team, and thousands of other entrepreneurs in there for unlimited business and legal Q&A. Until next time, my friend.